Phew. Another successful day taking care of adorable precious animals.
Fluttershy mumbled as she walked back home. She had spent the day with Dr. Fawn attending to animals in need. It was a long and tiring day, but made all the better when she knew she had some pony waiting for her at home. King Sombra, the former tyrant and ruler of the Crystal Empire, was now her special sun pony and housemate. She always took great comfort in seeing him, laying in the living room on the couch and reading a book. And today was no different. As soon as Fluttershy opened her front door, she immediately looked to the black mass in her peripheral vision and smiled.
Sombry, I'm home.
King Sombra looked up from his book and saw the yellow Pegasus. He was in his usual attire, ironclad hooves, chest plate, crown, and cape. He rarely ever took anything off.
Welcome back, Fluttershy. How's your day today?
He gently flicked his tail a bit as Fluttershy took her seat next to him.
Tiring. Dr. Fauna had more animals today. I guess it is to be expected since it is still early spring, and many animals do need more care than others at this time.
She yawned softly.
I hope my animals here didn't cause too much trouble while I was away.
No, they were quiet. A few did approach me, albeit very cautiously. You'd think they adjust to my presence after a few months of being here.
Sombra rolled his eyes as he turned the page in his book.
Oh, they will. Just have to have...
She yawned again.
Patience with them. They'll seem not bad at all.
Sombra was not oblivious to his mere friend's yawning. He could see she was tired, as evident by her slightly disheveled mane and the light bags under her usually vibrant teal eyes.
Little butterfly, you're tired and there's some time before dinner. Perhaps you could use a nap.
He suggested.
Oh, I couldn't. I still have to start preparing the portions for every animal's dinner here. And then check the fridge to see what we'll eat too.
Fluttershy was already looking a bit unsteady as she spoke. She would pass out soon enough despite her weak objections. Sombra set his bookmark in place and closed his book, readying himself to get up.
A few moments to rest your eyes won't hurt. Come, let's get you upstairs and...
Before Sombra could finish, he felt a gentle weight and light breathing tickling his rump. He glanced back to see Fluttershy sleeping as peacefully as she would in her own bed. He raised an eyebrow at this and was about to use his magic to move her somewhere more comfortable when...
Oh, Sombry, your rump is soft.
This stopped the stallion in his tracks. Fluttershy had commented a few times in the past how soft and fluffy Sombra's coat was, especially in the rump area, but it was always from an observation point of view. She never actually laid on his rump until now. He watched as she lightly snuggled his posterior more in an attempt to get more comfortable. This, admittedly, brought a little blush to Sombra's cheeks as he watched her for a few moments longer. When it seemed she'd finally settled in for what is a well-needed nap, Sombra went back to reading his book.
I did say she needed the rest. So long as she's comfortable and doesn't drool, leaving her there won't be so bad.
He thought. Sombra had awoken to the scent of hay cakes and Sunnyside eggs. His head lazily lifted off the pillow he was inadvertently snuggling in place of his mere friend. Where she was an early riser, he was not. And it had become a bit routine for him to wake up snuggling Fluttershy's pillow in his forehoofs, as they usually snuggled in their sleep, and she would get out of bed so quietly, his sleep wasn't disturbed. Sombra yawned and stretched himself. His silky onyx mane, a lightly moving curtain of shadow. He went through the usual morning routine, brushing his teeth, having a cold shower, brushing his coat till it was smooth, lightly polishing his hooves, and donning his usual attire. He knew he didn't need to wear it anymore, but it helped to cover past battle scars he had. His hooves thumped as he walked down the steps of Fluttershy's cottage. Though the iron shoes should make his steps heavy, they didn't. It puzzled Fluttershy at first, but in time she grew accustomed to it. Once he entered the kitchen, Fluttershy immediately turned around with her usual smile and radiant teal eyes.
Good morning, Sombra.
Good morning, Fluttershy.
He sat at his side of the table, his food already waiting for him. As he began eating, he watched as she set her own plate on the table before going to tend to the animals that also occupied her home. Birdseed for the birds, honey for Harry the bear, rodent chow for the mice, weasels, and gerbils, and finally, an extravagant salad for her very spoiled Angel Bunny. He didn't completely like nor dislike Angel. He mostly disliked the more spoiled nature of the creature and how difficultly mischievous he got whenever keen on getting Fluttershy's attention. There had been a few instances in the beginning where bunny pranks nearly resulted in the destruction of the cottage, the garden, and Angel himself. But after a talk, with Fluttershy translating, Sombra got to a point where he could tolerate the snarky white cotton ball. The same couldn't be said of the other animals. They mostly trembled and shrunk in his presence. It had been that way since his arrival months ago, when Fluttershy had her mind set on reforming him. The animals were intimidated by him, and it took Sombra some time to adjust to the many critters that occupied the cottage on a near daily basis, albeit mainly during mealtimes. When Fluttershy was finally done tending to the animals, she plopped down in her seat and started eating her breakfast. Sombra took this chance to ask,
So, my butterfly, what do you have on your schedule today?
Well, Dr. Fauna is taking today to make house calls and tend to all the pets in Ponyville. There's been a strange cold going around that's only affecting the animals, so she asked for my help to figure out what's wrong.
Fluttershy picked at her food.
Hopefully we can find a cure for them, meaning a trip to Sakura will be on the agenda too. What will you do today, Sombra?
I could go into town for a bit. I heard the library has a new shipment of books coming. Perhaps something will catch my eye.
I hope something does. You always look so peaceful when reading. I like it.
Fluttershy smiled, and a small smile graced Sombra's muzzle as well. He was often calmest when around her. After breakfast, Fluttershy washed the dishes, kissed his cheek, and took off for the day. True to his word, Sombra went into Ponyville and straight to the library. In the beginning, the ponies of the town would run away in terror or hide in his presence. Most still did. Some greeted him with an air of nervousness. Others stared from a distance. He didn't mind this as it was to be expected, since he was so different from them. His crimson eyes, stern expression, regal yet threatening aura. It would take time for the others' opinions of him to change, especially their thoughts of him living with Fluttershy and what they think he does to her behind closed doors. He arrived at the library and browsed through the shelves. He picked several titles from the shelves and took time to at least read the first 3 pages of each before deciding if he wanted them or not. When he made his choice, he settled on 3 books, paid for them, and went straight back to the cottage. But this time, the animals were all gone to fend for themselves, and he liked it that way. Quiet and solitary. Admittedly, when he first arrived, he spent his time that way as well. Fluttershy had been nervous when addressing him, so the silence often surrounded them, cut with a few small conversation attempts from time to time. But nothing more. Not for a while, at least. Once the two adjusted to each other, and eventual feelings for each other came into play, The silence soon became a conversation on its own. Sombra enjoyed the silence, and Fluttershy enjoyed his presence. He settled on the couch and opened the first book, when Angel Bunny hopped in and started squeaking angrily at him. Sombra glanced down at the white furball and stared. He watched Angel sign and continued to squeak angrily.
I don't speak, Bunny, and I'm pretty sure you're being rude. If it's about the couch, I'm not moving,
he said, going back to his book. He listened to Angel squeak for a while longer before he finally gave up and left. Sombra continued his day reading his book, not even really breaking to eat lunch. He stayed parked on the couch and absorbed in his book until Fluttershy came home and started napping on his rump. Sombra finished reading his second book just as Fluttershy was waking up. He glanced back at the Pegasus.
Good evening, Fluttershy. Did you have a nice nap?
She yawned as she sat up.
Yes, I did.
She looked up at the clock.
Oh goodness! Is that really the time? I have to give the animals their dinner and make dinner for us.
She was about to get up when Sombra's hoof stopped her.
No need to worry for the animals. I fed them.
You did?
I did, to the best of my ability.
He glanced away with a light blush on his cheeks.
You were asleep on my rump and I didn't want to disturb you. So, using my magic and having watched you do it so often, I measured and set out the food for your animals. The only one who hasn't eaten is Angel.
He showed his fangs a bit, and there was no chance of them getting along anytime soon.
Well then, I guess I better get to making dinner for us and Angel.
Fluttershy hopped off the couch and went to the kitchen, encountering a very angry Angel Bunny on the way. Sombra watched her for a moment before looking back at his rump. It was still warm where her head was, and there were some strands of her mane left behind. He thought back to what she said earlier.
Oh, Sombra, your rump is soft.
He grinned a bit and got up. He went to the kitchen to help her with dinner.
I guess the daily routine was worth it after all.
Support me on Patreon and Ko-fi. Links in the description. Thanks for listening and be sure to subscribe. Good night, every pony.